Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Reflection by Abia. My name is Abia Grant, and we are here. We are here, and we are in another episode of our podcast. And basically, we're going to get started. We're going to jump right into there. I hope everybody is doing well. Let me start off there and having a blessed day. Today is Sunday. It is the end of the month. I can't remember the exact date, but it's the end of the month. We're about to go into February soon. I can't believe how fast January has gone. And I just feel like so many changes happen in January. I'm looking forward to February because I feel like even more changes are going to happen in February. And also just feel like growth is going to happen. Like 2024 is just a beautiful year. And I'm just happy that it is an even year, you know? So I'm just looking forward to what February is going to bring. But like I said, I hope that you guys are having a blessed day and that, all is going well on your end. On my end, everything is pretty good. We are doing actually rather well. Not much issues or anything like that. Nothing like drastic or what have you is going on. And this week has just been a week of, how can I say? It's been a week of learning a lot about myself, learning a lot about people who are in my life. And this week just been a lot of growth for those different experiences. So I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy that we, or at least I have the ability to see change, improvements. Let's go ahead and get into this episode of the podcast. And I'm just going to throw the topic out there. And the topic for this week is going to be how you basically give yourself grace and faith, and basically how they work hand in hand. And the reason why I wanted to speak on this topic, and it may not be this exact title, I'm gonna be honest with you, but the reason why I am pretty much grouping these together is that last week, if you listen to last week's podcast, I was really in a dumpster dive. For whatever reason, I was in a dumpster dive and my emotions were very all over the place. And after editing that podcast and after just really sitting back and giving myself more time to work through my feelings, I said to myself, like, wow, Abia, you know, in this moment, you were not giving yourself grace and you weren't having faith that things were going to work out. And I think that for me, a lot of times I lose sight of this because I'm dealing with the emotions at that particular moment. And I feel like when we're in that emotion state, I guess I could speak for myself that I'm unable to understand that that feeling is what is not real. And I believe I've mentioned this in the last podcast, is that when we're going through those up and down type of feelings, it's kind of like our own mind is playing tricks on us. And afterwards, like I said, I had sat with myself and even had talked to my mom about it. I often go to my mom and I have these conversations with her because she is a person who has wisdom. Goes through her own ups and downs, and she has been on this earth longer. So therefore, a lot of times, often I do go to her to have these kind of conversations. Plus, it's woman to woman, you know. I feel that with her being a black woman, me being a black woman, she understands more so the aspect, everything that's going on. So I want to start off with basically I just jotted a whole bunch of notes down and we're gonna just touch on each of them because I feel like I really wanted to come to you guys with a very specific direction. And I really wanted to make sure everything is very organized so that we could touch on or I could touch on all the aspects that I feel is very important. So the first note that I have here is start out with the doubt of your want to how sometimes you don't see the road, but even so you have to have faith that you would get there. So pretty much what that summarizes to me is that when we're in the moment, as I expressed before, is we are unable to see that we're supposed to be on this road to accomplish a long-term goal, something that we see for ourselves. And if we're not trusting in the feeling of being concrete in the decisions that we are making, we are hampering ourselves to get to that next road. So, like, one of the things when I was talking to my mom, and I'll tell you a little bit about just her journey, is that, she is now deciding that she wants to start well, she has several businesses, but she's deciding that she wants to leave her permanent employer and really jump into this entrepreneur space. And um with that, what happens is that sometimes when you talk to people, they don't see the road that she needs to travel. So when she had told me this, I said to her, okay, you are an older woman. It's time for you to slow down and it's time for you to do what you want to do. I wish that this was something that maybe could have been earlier on in her journey, but it is what it is. Sometimes we're meant to go through a journey at certain parts of our lives. And again, it's a road. So you have to just figure out, I feel like God presents to you what you need to do in that moment. And maybe prior to in a younger age, in a younger state, the journey would have not gone the way that he wants it to go. So I say that all to say that she is now, older and able to really be like, I'm going to jump into this and I'm going to do this. And one of the things she said that when she had spoken to her employer was that when she was expressing how she was feeling and everything, because we all know as you get older, your body starts to, go through the changes and things, and you can't move the way that you want to move. And she said to me, one of the things that her HR director has said to her was that why do you not have faith? You know that you can't, or at least you do not want to do this particular job. So why are you just not trusting in the aspect of faith and knowing that as long as you put your brick in, there will be success on the other end? And it was at that point that triggered her to say, yeah, I need to have faith, and when she had expressed this conversation to me, I was like, wow. Because I remember a year and a half ago when I had the conversation with her in regards to leaving my employer at that time. I had been there for years. And eventually we will get into that story. But I've been there almost, I want to say 7, 8 years at this point. And it came to a point in which I was no longer happy there. And I was scared to leave because I had been there for so long. And I remember her saying to me, Abia, why do you not have faith that God got you? And I was just like, wow. So it's just crazy how a year later, in her situation, we're having the same kind of revelation and conversation. And I repeated back to her. I said, "Yeah, mommy." I was like, "That why you don't have faith? You need to have faith as well too. The same way you had told me that a year ago, we're now dealing with your situation. So that means that you have to have faith." So, let's just basically go into my own interpretation of what I believe having faith is. I want to start off with the grace aspect of it. So I put, what does it mean to give yourself grace? And I put it, in my opinion. So I had jotted down that you have to understand that the situation is new and that you may be lost in the initial aspects of that situation. Sometimes I feel like it also can apply to when you are dealing with a situation that you have dealt with before in the past, but maybe you're trying to figure out how to go about it in a different way because the way that you've been going about it before hasn't worked out for you. And that you have to understand that you need to work through those steps in order to reap what is coming to you, because I feel like what is meant for you will happen. I don't feel like that God is just kind of like you got to just, you on your own, or life, or just manifestation. Even that, you speaking positive to yourself and everything is going to work out positively. So you have to work through those feelings. You have to work through those feelings of just understanding that a situation may not be the way, how can I say? The situation may be difficult, but you will get where you need to get. So I also jotted down here the fact is that you have to give yourself the opportunity to figure it out. Sometimes the answer isn't right in front of you, as I spoke before. And even so, you have to feel and see this is the solution. So when I say feel and see, that means that this is your baby. Like, for instance, the podcast is my baby. I am feeling this podcast. I am seeing the growth and the potential that this podcast can help people. And if I'm going into it with feeling just this connection and seeing the opportunity for me to help myself and also help people, because the podcast, yes, it's about you guys, of course. But the podcast is about me as well too, because it gives me the opportunity to learn more about myself, especially when I'm editing the podcast. I'm hearing myself and I'm like, okay, you need to jot that down. You need to put that in your notes, because I feel like sometimes what happens is that you don't realize what you say in the moment until there's a playback, and then you're like, wow, that is a moment. That is a moment that I need to hold for myself, because I need to make sure that I don't forget, you know? So I also jotted down, and sometimes that can take time, but you will get there. So as I said, is that if you're on the road and if it's meant for you, you will get there. No matter what, you would get there. I remember when I was talking to my therapist at the time, and I was expressing how difficult it was for me to find a job. And I was just looking for a job in Jersey. I wasn't looking for a job anywhere else. I was like, I don't want to travel. I don't want to be bothered. I just want to come in, do what I got to do. Again, I've been working from home for 2, 3 years. So I was already used to not interacting with people at this point, and just totally focus on the computer doing what I gotta do. So I figured that I was gonna go right back into that same position again of working from home and or maybe working in the office, but not really interacting much with people. And this is, what it was. And my therapist has said to me, well, why don't you apply to jobs outside of New Jersey? Why don't you apply to jobs outside of New York or in New York? And I was just like, well, New York is far away from me. So I was like, you know what? He must be telling me this for a reason. God must be putting this on his spirit for a reason. Because I tell you, I was getting hits in Jersey and people were contacting me, but it was like, it was difficult. It was very, very, very difficult. So I remember my current employer. Right now, I had sent my resume to them and I looked at the position. Well, let me take a step back. I had interviewed for a position in Jersey, but they weren't paying the salary that I wanted. So I was like, I gotta make more than what I'm currently making right now. I'm not downgrading or staying the same. So wherever I go, I gotta make more money. So then I applied to my position currently that I am in, and I was like, okay, the salary was in between the bracket. And I was like, yeah, I want the higher end bracket. You know what I mean? You're not going to give me the mediocre. I'm worth it. So therefore, I want the higher end bracket. I had emailed my resume to them. They had contacted me. We had a virtual interview, and literally they called me that afternoon and offered me the position. And I was like, what the F? Because the thing is, at that time, I had two positions on the table. I had one position where I kind of really didn't know where it was going. It was in Jersey. It looked like a reputable company. But then it was just kind of like things were going on with them. They were hiring, then they paused hiring, and then it was just a whole lot. And I was just like, okay, they were offering way more than the current position that I am in. So I was like, that's one piece of the puzzle. Then the other piece of the puzzle was I now got offered this new position, but they were trying to offer me the lower end, or I think the middle end of, the bracket. And I was like, no, 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 no. If I accept this position, I want the higher end. So I remember I told the HR person that I want this is what I want. And she was like, okay, let me get back to you. She got back to me literally in like a half an hour. She was like, okay, we're willing to pay you what you asked. And I'm like, okay. And so I said to her, well, can you give me like just overnight? Let me just sleep on it overnight. I'll call you in the morning. I'll let you know what my decision is. And she probably was kind of like, girl, you got the salary that you want. So therefore, just take the position. But I needed time. I needed time to be able to talk to my husband, talk to my mom, and just pretty much figure out, if I want to commute. And be in the office, and it was completely different than what I was originally in. But then I said to myself, okay, Abia, you have to have faith. You have to have faith. One, your therapist is the person who told you or gave you the idea to apply outside of New Jersey. This position that you interview for in Jersey is not working out. Something's going on there. This other position, yeah, it's a commute, but they're willing to give you the amount of money that you are asking for. When I started to do the traveling was not too bad. The traveling was not too bad. It takes me about an hour, I want to say an hour and 20 minutes to get to work because I am in deep Jersey. But I said I have to have faith that this is the way God wants me to go. And on top of that, the hours were 9 to 5. It was no overtime, no nothing, no none. And I says, okay, this is going to give me the ability to focus on other things that I want to focus on, other businesses that I'm trying to develop, focus on my YouTube channel, now focus on the podcast. And my prior job would not allow me to do that. And who even know if I had took the job in Jersey, if it would have allowed me to do that. So I have to have faith that this is what God wants for me. This is my destiny. This is where I need to go. This is the direction I need to go. So I called the next day and I accepted the position. But I would just want to say is that sometimes we just have to understand that we're supposed to go along this road. And we may not see where the road is leading, but it's leading somewhere. It's leading somewhere that we just maybe did not expect, but it's going to be promising. So I know that was just a little bit of a lot of information and everything, but I did want to share that with you guys just to for you to understand, where I'm coming from and how that this has been something that has constantly been in and out of my life that I've been trying to work on. However, I have obstacles every now and then. So I have my next step here. I also believe grace can be applied when you make a mistake, whether it is to ourselves or someone else. And then I feel it's important to acknowledge the mistake, apologize, and see about fixing it so it doesn't repeat. So as I said before, when let's talk about the podcast or let's talk about the job. My current job right now, and me basically, I felt, you know, with my coworker leaving for that day, and I was putting all the weight of the world on me, and I was like, okay, I'm going to make a mistake because she's not here. She's not here to correct me, and I'm just kind of like on my own. Meantime, I have other people around me who are willing to help, but I've always been kind of the person who I don't I don't really rely on people, which is again something I'm working on. Also at the same time is that I feel like I should just know. So what I had said to myself is that if I do make a mistake, I have to understand, okay, Abia, you made a mistake and you learn from that mistake. And you just don't make that mistake again. You jot your notes down, dot your I's and cross your T's and make sure in the future you learn from what you had did before and just be like, okay, sorry, I wasn't able to do, or I wasn't able, to do that particular task, or I made a mistake and I apologized for it. And the crazy thing is, when I had spoken to my coworker, that is, I think it was like the day after she had returned back, I asked her at the end of the day, I said, how was everything that I had did the day before? She was like, everything was fine, everything was perfect. And meantime, I'm sitting here thinking like the end of the world is coming to a thing because I recall the first time she was out, she had corrected me on a couple of things that I had did wrong, but I still had those notes from that last era. So therefore, I went about the situation different the second time, or this time that she was out, and I wound up doing it accurately. But I said to myself, after she said everything was good, I had said to myself, Bia, why did you think that you weren't going to get it right? And even so, give yourself grace that maybe the second time around or first time around, or whatever time around, you maybe didn't understand it the first time. You maybe didn't understand the second time. Shucks, you may not even understand it the third time, but you are willing to learn. You are willing to do what is necessary. And I think that I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I feel like this stems from my feeling of I can't rely on people. I feel like it's a part of that in regards to that. Again, I'm feeling like I'm on a ship on my own. you know, and I just really have to stop that. I really have to stop that behavior because I feel like it's so tiresome and not necessary. Just be honest with you, not necessary. And now that I sit here and I think about it, I have to do better when it comes to that. I'm giving myself grace. Don't get me wrong. I'm giving myself grace, but I have to have faith that you got this. You know what I'm saying? So, I have here and see about fixing it so you don't repeat it. So that's just something that, obviously I spoke about before. Sorry, tongue tied a little bit. Something that I had spoken about before in regards to just learning from your errors and learning to just do better. And understand that sometimes we try to do better. You may make an error again, and it's okay. As I had mentioned before, it's okay. So I have my next topic, lead in faith. All right. So I have here, your life isn't over in the moment, and be aware of your long-term goals. And as you know, that is something that I, talked about before in regards to do what you need to do now because and learn from what you need to do in the moment. Don't rush it because you are planting the seeds for long term. You're planting the seeds for long term. I think about it with my podcast, and now I'm putting my podcast, God willing, up on YouTube, and I'm planting seeds. You know, it's taking a while to upload on YouTube, and it's probably because they need to figure out X, Y, and Z and make sure it's actually my podcast and all the rest of this stuff or what have you. But I am willing to wait. I have to wait. I don't have a choice. If I want to reach where I want to reach, I have to be patient. I have to understand there's going to be a long game sometimes. And it's okay. Sometimes things are not meant to happen in an instant. It's life, and it is what it is, you know. And then I'm not saying that to preach to you guys. I'm honestly saying it for myself. I'm saying it for me because that's just something that I do. So let's go ahead and move on to the next part that I have. Have here. I feel as long as we have the ability to stop and change our thinking, we have the option to do something different, and that could be in the next moment, next day, next week, and etc. And I just basically just look at my example of taking care of me, taking care of yourself. In the moment, sometimes, again, we want what we want right now. And if we make a mistake, we're upset with ourselves that we made a mistake, which is understandable, but we are not understanding again that things are going to happen when they happen, you know. And I feel like we have to have that thinking of maybe things are not supposed to be that particular way. Maybe the way in which we are going about it is not that right direction and we're being steered another way. And I mean, I look at it in that particular way is because sometimes we get this thought process of like, this is what we're supposed to do, but we deviate and we go the other direction. You know, we try to compete or challenge what's supposed to be, because we think we know it all. Like I said, I'm speaking about myself. I am speaking about myself. I'm not speaking about you guys. If this relates to you, you feel like okay, I that's me. Then hey, that's you. I'm just speaking about myself of me thinking that. girl. And I'm only 40 years old, and you don't know it all. You don't. You don't know it all. And stop trying to act like you do. But I do. I do. I do. So let's go ahead and get into the next part I have here. I believe we have trust and faith that what is meant for us is what we really want is possible. So I spoke about that before, and trusting that our end goal and what we are driving ourselves to, or what we feel like we're being driven to do, that it's there's unlimited possibilities on how it will work. I look at people, I looked at this girl on YouTube, and I know this is completely off topic, and I know I talk about YouTube a lot, but that's just a platform I'm at. And she started off her channel talking about how she had lost her job, and basically not feeling confident in her position. And I think she was working a place, uh maybe like a temp or something. I can't remember the full aspect of the story. And she started off on YouTube with a couple of hundred subscribers, and now she's up to 50,000 subscribers. So she probably never even thought it was possible. She probably never even thought that she would be able to have this conversation with people and grow to such a large capacity. And this the reason why I say is that possibilities are endless. And we have to understand that we have to be open to it. And also at the same time, we have to also be conscious with ourselves of not looking at others and saying to ourselves, well, they're there, and why am I not there? Maybe that's not your journey. Maybe your journey is supposed to be something else. Maybe your journey is supposed to be, I don't know, whatever. I don't know, making clothes. Maybe your hobby is making clothes, or maybe your hobby is making jewelry, and maybe you're going to get your blessings from that end. Everybody is going to get their blessings in a different way. And I think sometimes in this society we have a tendency to look at other people and think about, well, why they got that and I don't have that. And we shouldn't. We shouldn't. God blessed them with that, and we should just be happy for them that they were blessed with that, and that they're in a space to receive it. Because also at the same time, we sometimes get blessed, but we have the inability to know that it was a blessing. We sometimes can be ungrateful or unknowledgeable, or just not accepting the fact that this is what it is supposed to be. So for her to be able to receive that blessing is such a beautiful thing. And I'm happy for her. I don't know her from a can of paint, but I'm happy for her. So, much props in regards to that. So let's go ahead and move on to another just bullet points that I had jotted down. I feel people sometimes lack faith because they think a situation is impossible. I spoke about that before. It's only impossible because you say so. I spoke about that before. It's kind of funny that I haven't read these bullet points, but this is what's coming out of my mind, my thoughts and everything. And I'm already speaking about this before I can actually even get to the bullet point. It's crazy. Maybe I didn't need these notes, but I like to jot these things down because I want to just again come to you with concrete, what I'm going to talk about, and not just be all over the place. So I have to understand that things will be scary in the unknown space, and it's okay if I'm trying to find my way. But once I get on my feet and trust in me, I will be okay. And I say that to say we have to have faith in ourselves. We have to trust in ourselves. And we also at the same time have to understand other people may not have faith in us, whether they're a part of our family or they're friends. We sometimes have people who say, well, you shouldn't do X, Y, and Z because this is going to be the penalty. But at the end of the day, their way of thinking is their own situation in regards into maybe they've dealt with their own obstacles and they are projecting their obstacles to what you're trying to do. And everybody's life is different, so at the same time we had to be careful about what we say, what we say to people who share their journey or whatever whatever they are trying to do. I know when my mom had came to me, she shared that she wants to leave her job and she wants to start her side business. Just said, I'm proud of you, I'm happy for you, I support you, and you got this. you know I'm not gonna say, well, I'm not going to spit negative to her. That's not what she needs. She needs inspiration. She needs someone who has faith in her, you know. But at the same time, like I said, is that sometimes we're not going to get faith from people. We're just not. And it is what it is. I mean, it's not okay. I mean, I was going to say it's okay, but it's not okay. It just kind of is what it is. So we just have to just maybe close that part of that conversation and progress with what we're trying to do, because at the end of the day, we this is what we want. So we got to work to what we want, you know. So let's go ahead and move on to the last bullet point, and then we're going to go ahead and get into to today's quote. So I put, when I think about this step, I think about a baby learning how to walk. They kick their feet, they start crawling, they wobble on their feet, maybe even fall down and start crying. But they don't allow fear to get in their way. They try again. And why is that? Because babies have no fear, and that's how I have to be, like a baby. And I wrote this down, everything here that we're having a conversation about. I wrote this last night, laying in bed, and this mindset, this last part came to me. And I was thinking about it, like, babies have no fear. Yeah, they cry when they, don't have their way, or again, like I mentioned in this part of, my writing, is that they fall down, but they get back up. They don't allow for their pain to stop them from walking again or crawling. I mean, I don't think a baby could fall from crawling. Who knows? I don't know. I'm talking about from crawling to walking, because that's normally when children fall. But that's the way that I need to live my life and live my journey, is as if I'm a baby with no fears, because we have to remember, fears come later on in life. It's something that is learned, I think, like in school, and oh, you touch the stove, you're gonna get burned, or that's the reason why kids tend to get into things that we're like, how did you even, like, why would you do that? Because they don't understand that that is painful. They're fearless. So why can't I live my life like that? Why can't I live my life as a baby and being fearless and pushing forward no matter what? That's how I'm going to do my journey. That is how I'm going to live my journey. And not every day, I'm going to be honest with you, at the same time, not every day is going to be easy. I talk about this all the time, the past couple of weeks in the podcast. It's not going to be easy, but I have to try. I have to crawl, and I have to walk. I have to. What other choice do I have? If I want what I feel is my destiny, I got to do what I got to do. So, yeah. But guys, that is the end of my notes. I want to go ahead and get into the quote for this week, and then I'm going to go ahead and end the podcast after this quote. So my quote that I had, well, not my quote, but the quote that I had saved for this podcast is this. Okay. Let me not pray to be sheltered from dangers, but to be fearless in facing them. Let me not beg for stealing, sorry. Let me not beg for the stealing of my pain, but for the heart to I want to say conquer it. I'm gonna spell it Conquer it. Sorry, sometimes my pronunciation is off. And then the last line is "Let me not cave in." And what this quote basically meant to me is that life is going to be scary. There are going to be dangers. There's going to be things in which we are just like, what, what am I doing? But I have to push her on. Like I said, with the baby analogy, I have to keep pressing on. So, yeah. Now, in this quote, they also do have here a line, and I omitted that line because I didn't feel like it was relevant towards what I was trying to say to you guys. But I'm going to read it off to you. It says, "Let me not look for allies in life's battlefield, but to my own strengths." So I'm going to read that again. Let me not look for allies in life's battlefield, but to my own strengths. And I'm going to be honest with you, I am 50-50 with that particular line because I feel like we have to have allies. We don't have to. I mean, we could do things on our own if I mean, we do that. But it's better that we have people who we can rely on, who's going to be in a soldier with us or going to be with us. Trying to do everything on your own sometimes is not the best. It really ain't. It's really not the best. So am 50-50 with that particular part of the quote. I think that it really depends on the scenario that you are dealing with, to be honest with you guys. So, guys, that is the end of this week's podcast. And not 100% sure what's going to be the title of this podcast. Obviously, I put a title to upload this for you guys, and you would see it there. So, we'll see what we come up with. Now, guys, just a little bit of information. As I mentioned before, I'm new in this whole podcast realm, so there's a lot that I am learning. I'm trying to figure out how to comment back to you guys on Spotify, but I would appreciate that you comment to me on Spotify and the other platforms that I am on. As well, in addition to that, I have a Instagram page called Reflection by Abia, and all my information is listed there. I have my link tree up with all my other social media and etc. So you'll be able to follow me in other places as well too. I ask that you go onto IG and you become one of my friends. I am going to be posting short form clips of the podcast on that IG page as well too, so you'll be able to visually see me at some parts of that podcast. 9 times out of 10 it will come out maybe that right after the podcast comes out. So right now I'm releasing the podcast at about 5 a.m., 5 to 6 a.m. The podcast actually comes out, and hopefully, God willing, you should have the video clips on IG within a couple of hours after that and everything. And yeah, and guys, this journey, I am happy about this journey. I really am. I've really been trying to put myself out there. I've told quite a few people about my podcast and what I'm trying to do, and I've been getting a lot of just positive feedback. And I just want to say thank you guys for those who I've talked to that do listen, and I hope that you are receiving a good message. I will hope that I'm putting out, well, I think I'm putting out, no, not I think. I know that I'm putting out a good message. So, I hope that you're receiving it in the positive spirits and that is able to help you on whatever journey you're on, or if even not even on the journey, maybe you're sharing it with somebody who's on their journey. And yeah, so that's pretty much that with that. All right, guys. So that is the end of this week's podcast. God willing, I will see you guys next week. Make sure you treat yourself kindly out there in those streets and make sure you treat others kindly out there in those streets. And I will see you next week. All right, guys. Bye.